As I look at the clock, it appears to be 10:05. Henceforth, therefore, Isabel, long time no see. This meeting of the Joint Water Advisory Board and Technical Advisory Committee is called to order. Today is Friday, September 12th, 2025, and the time is 10:05. I will ask who will be calling the roll. Okay, Greg. Dr. Mount, I would ask you to call the roll, please, for the Water Advisory Board.
That's a DJ move.
It brought me back to my Jersey roots there for just a quick moment. You know, there was some flashlights and neon lights, you know. Anyway, Senator Geller.
Here.
Mayor Welch. Councilmember Albritton.
Here.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman.
Here.
Commissioner Bell.
Here.
Governing Board Member Ron Bergeron. Yeah, just thank you, sir.
Here.
And I have Julio
Ron,
Tejada.
you've changed.
Commissioner Biederman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bogan. Commissioner Caggiano.
Present.
Mr. Carbon.
Here.
Commissioner Eaton, I know, is in traffic. Mayor Gomez is online. Vice Mayor Good.
I'm here.
Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Horland, I know, is online. Vice Mayor Mateo Bowen. Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Starkey. We have a quorum for the WAB.
Excellent. Please call the roll of the Technical Advisory Committee.
Mr. Carbon.
Here.
Mr. Garcia. Ms. Widoshinsky. Mr. Butler. Commissioner Bell.
Here.
Mr. Bador. Mr. Walker. Ms. Tietzel. Mr. Batista. Ms. Kniff. Ms. Carballo. Dr. Hirado.
Here.
Mr. Lopez. Luis Ochoa is online. Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Kwiatkowski.
First person to say that? No, about her.
Mr. Frias? Here. Ms. Muhammad? Here. Mr. DeCastro? Ms. Pearson? Mr. Holmes is online. Ms. Meckler? Here. Mr. Abi Karam? Here. We have quorum of the TAC.
Thank you. Please show that we have quorum of both. First order of business, then before we do our minutes, which will be our second order, is I hereby declare the public comment period, public hearing open. Is there anyone present in person who has any public comment? Is there any person present in person who has any public comment? Is there any person present online who has any public comment? Seeing none, I hereby declare the public comment period closed. At this point in time, I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the March 14th, 2025 meeting.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Good, seconded by Commissioner Commissioner Good, are you currently Commissioner or Vice Mayor? And what are you today? But today you're Commissioner, and Commissioner Caggiano, you are today Commissioner?
Commissioner.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is on a lot of the boards, we alternate between Commissioner, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and so I was just inquiring. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Are there any additions or corrections? Any additions or corrections? If there are no additions or corrections, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show the minutes adopted unanimously. Next order of business will be the election of chair and vice chair. I am interested in continuing to serve as chair. Are there any motions?
I'd like to make a motion to continue chairing.
Okay, Commissioner Caggiano moves to reelect the chair, seconded by Commissioner Biederman. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, are there any additional nominations? Any additional nominations? If not, show nominations closed. Since there's only one nomination, thank you, I'm chair again. Are there any nominations for vice chair? Yes,
Yeah, I'd like
Commissioner
to,
Carbone.
Commissioner Caggiano, sorry.
Okay. Commissioner Caggione, how long have you been on the web? How long have you been on the web now? You
Oh,
remember?
a couple of years.
Well, it seems like
Yeah,
a
it's
long
about
time. Yep.
probably
Okay.
4 years.
Yeah. All right. Certainly, you've done an excellent job. Are there any additional nominations? Are there any additional nominations? Seeing no additional nominations, show the nominations closed. And Commissioner Caggione, congratulations on your election as vice chair.
Thank you. Well, thank you on yours as chair, continuing.
Thank you. Now, let's see. Dr. Moran's presentation is at a time certain, so I believe that the next item of business is probably the Broward County Rapid Alert and Information Network. Where? Okay, so I thought that was item number 8. Okay, gotcha. Before I do this, however, I don't see this on the agenda. I know that Dr. Moran will be speaking about the Section 203 update, but Dr. Hirado, would you care to make any comments on the meeting that we had on this?
I would be pleased to. So I believe it was Tuesday of this week, there was a public meeting held at the Oakland Emergency Management Office. Thank you, Albert, great facility. This was a critical milestone in the long-standing, I'd say decadal efforts to bring forward resilience improvements to the Central South Florida Flood Control Project. And back in, the historical is that in 2009, the South Florida Water Management District issued a report with an assessment of the functionality of that system under conditions of sea level rise. And it was acknowledged that the system was about 6 inches within design failure because of the sea level rise that had already been realized to date. The fact that the system as a whole is designed to function under gravity operations where water drains from a higher water level to a lower water level. And the fact that because the coastal water levels are no longer as low as they used to be, the gates can't drain as they were designed. And ultimately, that gravity will not be a mechanism for which that system can operate long-term. And you all know that over the years, the Water Advisory Board has been honored to have the participation of the Army Corps of Engineers, Colonel for Jacksonville, as well as Water Management District leadership, and have talked repeatedly about not only is the report accurate, but the system was actually already in failure. And so Senator Geller has clearly been one of the county's primary advocates in trying to bring attention to the issue. And a year ago,
Parks and houseboats.
and so a year ago, the county commission had provided $5 million in order to advance the studies that were moving forward, but at a very limpish pace. And with that $5 million, the county joined the South Florida Water Management District in funding the study with the goal of having that meet the WRDA 2026 timeline for congressional approval and authorizations. So Tuesday's meeting was a presentation of the tentatively selected plan and all of the modeling and the features and details of what is now being readied to advance for that final report. Now, there's still going to be, as you'll hear from Carolina, opportunity for public comment and potentially some refinements, but it was so significant, and I think that we were all very pleased with the quality of what's presented, the makings of this plan, the service for the Broward County basins, which was our objective, and just a tremendous advancement and point in this process.
Thank you, Dr. Harada. We will hear more about this when Dr. Moran gets here, and I have a lot of nice things to say about the Corps and the South Florida Water Management District, but I will save those until Dr. Moran is here, because if you can compliment somebody while they're there as opposed to before they get there, you might as well wait till they're there. So our next item on the agenda is under Roman numeral 8A, the 2025 Broward County Integrated Water Resources Plan. Dr. Mount, take it away.
Thank you, sir, and I'll continue on the positive note that we're heading down. Today I report to you about the Broward County Integrated Water Resource Plan grant cycle and the selected, the recommended projects that have been moved forward for your consideration today, and hopefully a motion and a vote. As you may know, every 2 years, the WAB gets to recommend to the County Commission 2 different types of grants that are offered through our budget process, 2 collaborative partners, and a 50% at least cost share. These 2 grants are either feasibility analysis and design or reclaimed water construction. As you know, the Integrated Water Resource Plan has been here since 1997. We provide a yearly update to share with you all of the great things that are happening here in the county in relation to this plan and all the great steps forward that we're taking. As part of the IWRP structure, as you know, there's 4 components that all function together. There's a series of urban water resource management strategies that provide alternatives towards meeting our future water needs. We have also a robust water resources assessment program, regional governance and coordination, which you are all a part of, and then public outreach, keeping everybody involved and keeping all the water managers on the same page. This grant cycle and these grants that are afforded to the collaborators help to move all of those 4 parts forward. So perhaps your municipalities have participated in these before. I think a lot of the folks here are representative of that. So this grant cycle, we received 5 applications. Staff reviewed every single one with a very fine-tooth comb. We awarded points based on the rubric that everybody was submitting in accordance with. That resulted in 2 feasibility and design and 3 construction applications that were moved forward to the TAC at the last TAC meeting. I'm happy to report that all of the applications were of such high quality that everybody that submitted moved through with an excellent score. The 5 projects that you see on the screen, 2 were submitted by Pompano Beach, 1 for design, 1 for construction, 1 by the City of Davie, 1 by the City of Hollywood, and 1 by the City of Miramar. Those projects a little bit further in depth with Pompano Beach was to expand the reuse distribution system, Icon Water program. This reduces the overall need for potable water use for irrigation in the city. It'll install a significant amount of 4-inch and 6-inch pipe and then extend the reach of the reuse for irrigation.
This is the famous purple pipe.
It is the Purple Pipe program, yep.
Pompano has been doing a wonderful job in this project.
Town of Davie was doing a potable reuse pilot project. This accounted for the design, construction, operation of a potable reuse pilot project at the System 4 water reclamation facility. This will investigate the feasibility and effectiveness of that reuse as a potential strategy for meeting those future water demands. In Hollywood, they are expanding they seek to expand the Recapture the Swell initiative through phase 2. And this will integrate more bioswales and permeable pavers and more beautification objects in the pilot project to enhance those green stormwater infrastructures across the city. In Miramar, there is a median reuse irrigation project that's proposed, and this will account for the design and construction of a reuse water infrastructure project to serve 3 high visibility medians located along Miramar Parkway, between I-75 and Southwest 148th. These reused water lines will enable the greenery and the medians to survive, of course. So how were they graded? Staff went through and assigned points meeting the criteria for feasibility analysis and design. Reclaimed water construction had a very similar rubric that was followed. And again, all the projects were so great that there was minimum points taken off, even with us being super critical. And our recommendations to the TAC were this. We sought to recommended Hollywood, Pompano Beach, and Town of Davie for feasibility analysis and design at the recommended request that they had asked for. Similarly, with the construction recommendations, we recommended Pompano Beach and Miramar at $200,000 and $190,000 respectively. We presented this same presentation to the TAC. The TAC voted to support staff's recommendations and then to move those recommendations to the WAB, where it sits for the WAB to discuss and vote on today. Moving forward, if we are successful here in having the WAB's recommendation to move forward to county commissioners, staff will work with the municipalities to develop the scope, execute ILAs in the wintertime, early spring, and then hopefully bring these in front of the Board of County Commissioners for their approval in March of 2026. We're working on a very fast timeline. We hope that the projects kick off in early spring or late spring, early summer, hopefully.
Thank you, Dr. Mount. I have a couple of questions, and
Sure.
then we'll open it up to both the board and the public. How much money did we have available for grants, and did we give all of that out?
We had approximately $1.4 million between the two categories. We were not successful in giving all of it out, and we're working with Dr. Grotto and leadership to perhaps run another grant cycle in the spring.
I think you should clarify construction versus feasibility.
Right. I saw there were two grants. One got 3 and one got 2.
Yes. So if we look at the, let me go back real quick. I apologize. The feasibility analysis design had slightly less money available, recognizing that the construction projects are often more expensive. So we are able to fund almost the entire category or take away from the entire budget category for construction. There is still money left over in the budget for feasibility analysis design projects.
Thank you.
Yep.
The second question is, and these, as you said, these were all excellent projects. I'm very impressed with the work done by all of our cities. How do we let the cities know about our availability for this, so make sure that all of the cities know that they have the opportunity to apply for these grants?
Absolutely. We make the initial announcement at the TAC meeting in April, I believe. We host we do a significant effort to reach all the decision makers at the individual municipalities. We reach out to the mayors, city managers, and utilities folks, as well as everybody that's on the WAB and the TAC. We conduct an online 1-hour kickoff meeting and webinar where we present, answer any questions, allow everybody to figure out what we're asking for and how much money is available. And then we have follow-up conversations with the interested parties between then and the submission at the beginning of August.
Okay. And a little tiny bit of bad news. Just want to let everybody know, I think all of you have read that Broward County was doged or doggied, however you want to, since it's the original Doge is based on that dog coin. I've always preferred to just pronounce it doggy. But there were 2 areas in particular that they were looking at, and one of the 2 areas was apparently they believe that Broward County is spending way too much on environmental issues, which they referred to as the Green New Deal. And in consultation with county administrator, our first line of our response was, Broward County has never adopted the Green New Deal, but, you know, we are assuming that you are asking about what we're spending on environmental issues and resilience. And then we gave them all of the information that they're asking for. But I am cautioning that I am relatively certain, since, again, there were two items that they zeroed in on, and since one of them was the amount of money that we are spending on resilience, I am expecting to hear that when the doggy report, I'm sorry, when the report does come out, that they will take aim at the county based on the fact that we are among the leaders, and I won't say it's exclusively thanks to Dr. Hirado, just primarily thanks to Dr. Hirado, but we are among the leaders in the state and in the nation on preparing in this. As a matter of fact, yesterday, when the South Florida Regional Planning Council held our annual, we meet twice a year. Once we have a South Florida Regional Planning Council conference, the other is a joint one with the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. The chair of the Broward Alliance commented that when the Alliance had gone up to Boston, that the people in Boston were amazed, considering all of their coastal issues, how far advanced Broward County was on our resilience over them, and he did name check you, Dr. Hirado. But I did want to let everybody know, as we're talking about these, I am expecting that that will be an issue in the future. Yes. Isabel Cosio-Carballo is the executive director of the South Florida Regional Planning Council, but didn't have her mic on.
Thank you, Senator. I was just curious when they, speaking of the Doge, so when they're questioning resilience issues, is there a differentiation for infrastructure investments? Would infrastructure investments themselves not be seen as positive?
The question was, list all of the expenditures and everything you've done supporting the Green New Deal. And our response, the first sentence was, Broward County has never adopted the Green New Deal. However, had we left it at that, they would have accused us of being non-cooperative. So we said, we are assuming that you are asking about the efforts that the county is taking towards resilience, which we're spending a lot on, because if we don't, we will be underwater. And then we gave them every piece of information that we could, because we don't want them to say, aha, they're not cooperating. But since this is one of the two areas that they're looking at, they're going to find something, because they will not be embarrassed by asking us for information and then finding out that we're not actually doing anything wrong. So I'm just cautioning all of the members of the WAB that we are one of their number one targets. We're the first county that they went after, and there are two items that led the charge. So, I was about to say, are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, quick
Commissioner
question.
Albritton.
Why aren't we signed up with the Green New Deal? Is there a reason Broward didn't sign into it, or?
Yeah, probably politically.
Okay.
The Green New Deal has attracted a great deal of support and also attracted a great deal of opposition. And recognizing we are political realists in Broward County. This is not Massachusetts or Colorado or California. We are going to pick and choose our fights carefully and still try and accomplish our goals without being overly aggressive about them, and working behind the scenes and doing what we need to keep from being flooded. And that's what everybody who's attended these meetings know has been certainly my top priority. And I think that Dr. Hirado, as I said, I regularly refer to her as a state national treasure. And she's been one of the leaders in this area. Commissioner Biederman, you looked like you
Sure.
wanted to say something, yes. Okay.
So I would take the approach, and I mean, listen, you guys do what you do, but I would take the approach that everything that Broward County is doing doesn't really flow with the Green New Deal, but flows with Resilient Florida, because DeSantis loves to promote Resilient Florida. Every time he wants something, he says, apply to Resilient Florida for it. So
That's
as long as you
kind
use
of
that
what we did,
roadmap,
right.
we're in compliance pretty much.
They will find something wrong. They don't go through all of it. I want to remind you, they announced the results before they set, the same day that they sent us the request for data, the governor announced that we were overspending before he had any results from us. So this was one of those issues where first they reached their decision and then they sought data to support
Reverse
it.
engineering.
Yes, but, you know, we, again, you are completely correct, as usual, Commissioner Biederman. We are, and we phrase it this way, we have not signed on the Green New Deal. We are spending money on environmental resilience to keep from being flooded, which is, and, you know, to support the business community and keep insurance rates low and all of these issues that the governor says if they support. We'll see what happens. Are there any additional questions or comments on either my remarks or on Dr. Mount's remarks? Are there any additional questions or comments? If not, is there a time for a motion now, Dr. Otto? If not, is there a motion to support the grants as recommended by Dr. Mount?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Good. I'm sorry, was that Commissioner Caggiano? Seconded by Commissioner Caggiano. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Show the motion adopted unanimously. Good job, Dr. Mount.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
And let's see, our next agenda item is the Broward County Rapid Alert and Information Network Program. Is that pronounced Stefan? Stefan. Okay, Stefan. I'm a Stephen, so that's why, you know.
We're close enough.
Right, okay. Stefan Paratano, Climate Resource, Resilience. After all of this discussion, I should be able to know how to pronounce it. Climate Resilience Coordinator with the Broward County Resilient Environment Department. And this really is a study on Broward County, although when you look at the report, it's all of these other counties across the country. So, Mr. Paratano, take it away.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So my name is Stefan Paratano. I work in the Resilient Environment Department. I'm here to introduce to the WAB a new program that Broward County is pushing out throughout the county. And then I've also already presented to TAC, so it was some time ago, so it'll be a refresher and an update, but you will see some of the same slides as last spring. We're calling this RAIN. It stands for the Rapid Alert and Information Network. Basically what it is a flood warning network system for the roadways throughout the county. Because of the nature of the audience in here, I'm going to keep it extremely brief, but I do like to go over the problem before I push the solution and why this program is needed. I think the problem is best illustrated by the April 12th, 2023 events. We knew that at 2:45 p.m. on that day, we were expected to get 3 to 4 inches of rain total for the entire afternoon. Less than 2 hours later, we had neighborhoods that had over 8 inches. And shortly afterwards, you saw those pictures like on Broward, where hundreds and hundreds of cars were lost. There was gridlock. We had no way to know what roads were inundated, which ones were safe. And we also didn't have a way to communicate that information to the commuters, even if we had it. By the end of April 12th, we had lost over 5,000 cars in Broward County, had over 1,000 water rescues, and as you know, Fort Lauderdale Airport was shut down for 3 days. And this problem isn't going away. At the same time as we are experiencing an increasing of density throughout the county, we're also seeing a wetter hydroclimate. On the left is the city of Fort Lauderdale overlaid with a floodplain map. Most of you know that the average elevation of Fort Lauderdale is somewhere around 3 feet. And then on top of that are buildings that are either recently completed, under construction, accepted by the city commission, or going through their design and review process as of now. They've doubled the density in downtown Fort Lauderdale since 2010 alone. So we have more and more people using these roads in less green space for stormwater to pond. At the same time, we're seeing these events, these massive deluges happen more frequently. On the right is the top 10 wettest one-day events of Broward County, the entire urban area as a whole. 5 of those have happened in the past 5 years. So half of the list. It's only going to get more and more concerning as we move forward. Luckily though, we're not the only ones facing these types of problems, so we don't have to go and reinvent the wheel. There are flood warning systems. Now, not in Florida. The closest ones usually are in Texas, and then most of the western states, they're pretty common. We all know what happened in Kerr County, Texas during July 4th. Almost 200 people were killed. And Kerr County sits on the northwest side of Bexar County, about 20 miles. They didn't have a system at all. Bexar County did, but even this system still had some problems. There were 2 different events in Bexar County this summer that resulted in the loss of 15 lives as well. It just wasn't as reported on as much as the Kerr County. But they've got a great model, and they're continuing to expand it, and they're investing actually $21 million this year alone to create that coverage and hopefully end losing lives and vehicles. Now, what you're looking at is a resident-facing dashboard. Anybody can jump on this website and see, based on the sensors that they've put in the roads, the conditions as it relates to flooding. They use a simple red, green, yellow kind of stoplight design. Green obviously means that the roads are clear. Yellow, dangerous conditions are starting to happen. And red means that they've got standing floodwaters on the road and you need to reroute. They also have an alerting mechanism. So any resident can jump on this website and subscribe to alerts. Let's say Cave Lane is on your route to work. You can jump on, subscribe, and next time that there are dangerous conditions, the county will actually text and email you saying that you need to reroute. Cave Lane is officially closed. I know on my way home into Pompano that I've had a lot of times where I didn't know the conditions were bad, and then I've spent 3 hours trying to get home, and this system helps alleviate that issue. They also use it to pre-position vac trucks and other emergency vehicles. When they start seeing red alerts, it notifies the correct city and county personnel to start moving into place and trying to alleviate the conditions on the road. So when I say sensor, what do I mean? This is an exaggerated view of what these sensor towers look like. Basically, what they are is a pressure transducer. This is one of them. On the end is something called a pressure cell, and you affix this at or below the actual street, and as the water builds up on it, it exerts more and more pressure. Obviously, as the pressure builds up, it translates that to a depth reading that is then reported into a central network. Now, what we're doing in Broward County is putting them into the catch basins or the storm sewer systems on the streets. So you'll see these stormwater grates, and what we're doing is putting the actual pressure transducer about 90 to 75% up on the actual catch basin. Now, these sensors go up to a central tower that we have powered by solar panels. So we're not worried about power supply. We're able to put these in the worst hit and known areas. And then there's also a telemetry unit, rain gauge, so we can get hyper-localized precipitation data, and a camera. Because, these pressure transducers are in rough environments, Broward County streets, storm sewer systems, there's a lot of stuff in there. So sometimes they can get false readings, but cameras are a backup system. If they get a weird reading or they know that there should be flooding, they can just ask for a picture and see real time anywhere in the county what's happening on the ground. We are building this network out by also putting up our own towers. So we don't have to permit the different types of sensors. We're able to go there, put different ones on, take them off as we see fit. This technology is really exploding right now, but I can go out to some of the existing sites and put sensors that collect soil moisture readings, wind direction and speed, the humidity of the air, barometric pressure, if we're trying to look at how storms move throughout our buildings and built environment, ambient temperature, if we're looking at urban heat islands. And then I even had a meeting with someone who was showing me a sensor that can tell you the droplet size of the rain. I haven't figured out why I would need to know that, but really interested. And then, so how do they talk? Basically, the sensor tower we put up, and they're for telemetry, we're going to use cellular, AT&T FirstNet. It's a priority network that's never gone down in Broward County. It was developed by the federal government after 9/11, 2001. And basically, even if all of our own phones don't work, these ones will start pushing. They're only meant for first responders. They have the towers are always located over on top of each other. So it takes multiple towers to go down. And they also have about 3 to 4 day generators on site. So it would really take an extreme event for us to lose cellular telemetry at this point. And the network's so good that actual police departments have been moving to it as well and getting rid of radio. They report through the cellular telemetry onto a central hub where we're able to access all of this data. So we did a few installs over the summer. Basically, we made this really cool 3D model, which lights up. I'm very proud of it. But then we had to eventually take it out into the real world. What we did is used a core drill to punch through the catch basin sidewall after we dug up an area and put a conduit in and put a pull box on the actual inside of the catch basin. That's where the sensor sits. We wire it up and put concrete here for the base of the tower. And once we're done, this is kind of what it looks like. You've got a rain gauge up on top, solar, the telemetry unit right there, a camera that's very inconspicuous. And then on the inside of the catch basin is just a pull box. So it's protected. No one really knows it's there. It's just another pull. So we're hoping that vandalism is at a minimum. There has been, this type of work is quite small, the group of practitioners. Out west, they said that sometimes they'll get vandalism. That's their biggest problem. So we're trying to build it out so nobody takes notice of them. So we're obviously ending FY 2025. This last year was pretty much just our learning phase. We went out to Texas, toured some of the sites, got to know exactly how all of this technology works, did procurements, and have done some test trials. Over the next 3 to 4 years, we're expecting to push out these sensor towers throughout the entire county. And then the next 4 slides are dedicated to AI integration. Now, it's not practical for us to put towers on every street. They are expensive. There's data usage rates. So in between the sensor towers, we still need to know what's happening. And this is where AI comes into play. We want to blanket the entire county in this so we know exactly what's happening everywhere. Then in FY 27, we're going to start developing the resident-facing dashboard with the alerting mechanisms, because at the end of the day, This program is meant to get the information as fast as possible from our network into the hands of the commuters so that they can move from A to B as most efficiently as possible. And then we'll go into mobile app development and integration with Waze and all of the commuter apps. We've already started talking with them. Waze is fine with this. They've actually done it out west. So we'll be able to tell them what roads are flooded, and they'll show it on their apps as well, and then reroute people away. So we can hopefully save them a headache. And now AI, what do I mean by that? So basically, it is a physics-based digital twin of the environment of Broward County. They can put, there is no upper limit in the amount of data that we're able to upload into it. They already ingest USGS sensors that will tell what the actual tidal heights are at the time. They take in NOAA sensors. I've talked to them about pushing in the water management district sensors, and then all of these as well. They'll use that to inform their AI algorithm to predict where flooding will happen and when it's supposed to take effect. They push in meteorological forecast and then terrain data. I was talking to them. I wasn't sure if they were going to do a charge per kilobyte of data that we put in, but I know that the city of Fort Lauderdale has an amazing asset management plan with their stormwater. It's over 10,000 assets. They also have curbside LiDAR where they can pick up penny-size cracks in all of their sidewalks. This product, FloodMap, says they ingest all of that into their actual AI predictive analytics. And it breaks down into kind of 3 products. The first one is Forecast. So they take this information, they take the historical data, and they try to predict 6-12 hours out in advance where flooding is going to be. This can allow us to deploy vac trucks, start giving alerts, getting people heads up that we're expecting this area to be flooded in the not so distant future. Then Nowcast gives us that intelligence on what streets are flooded and what streets are safe. And then Postcast. This is a continual learning AI model, which means that it gets better with age. It might, the first time it might think that point A and point B are hydrologically connected. In reality, it will go back and see that that wasn't the case, and it learns from it. And so next time it won't make that same mistake. So as this is deployed, it'll get better, and it'll inform us maybe where we need to put sensor towers. Maybe this one area has a little trouble with its predictive analytics. We put in a sensor and it gets more information. Now I've got some demonstrations of how this works. But before I click play, I do just want to run through some of the points. So this actually happened in Giles County, Virginia. This is from September 26th to September 30th. And this is the water level in black, what actually occurred, observed, versus their forecast, which was 6 hours out. It's this blue line right here. You'll see it when I click play, move up and down, showing that what it was predicting. And then this is precipitation from 0 to 10 millimeters. So what their rain gauges were showing. On the bottom is a spatial map that shows which assets they were predicting that were going to get flooded with their forecasts. So I'll run it twice so you can see both of them. And so basically, as you see, this is an Esri platform or an Esri compatible platform. So we can put in our own asset layers that pretty much every city and county has built, and it will start giving us information about which assets, what roads, what buildings are expected to be inundated and when. And so this is their forecast, and this is their nowcast. So FDEM actually procured this tool during Hurricane Helene and used it for their flood intelligence. Blue showing their inundation as it was happening based on the sensors. And then when it receded back, it gave them the ability to know what areas they were able to go into and which ones were still flooded and they need to continue to use, those high water crafts and such. So it really allows a great amount of information to be obtained by pretty much anyone with this program. And this is postcast. So since most of our assets have base level floor elevations, it can tell exactly what buildings were flooded at what depths. So you can go in here, see exactly what the sensors are showing, what part of a neighborhood was hit the hardest, which ones seem to be safe, so you can allocate those resources as best as possible.
And that's still Giles County, Virginia? You're showing?
No, this is Hurricane Helene in Tampa.
I thought that looked like Tampa Bay, and I was trying to figure out.
Oh, so yeah, we
Virginia.
moved. So
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir.
Okay.
All right, and then this again is another view of FDEM's tool,
That's St. Petersburg.
showing the
right here.
actual damage estimates and analytics after the event, so they can see, what happened, where it happened, when did it happen, and how much it's going to cost to repair. So there's a great amount of flexibility in how we can use this tool. But we obviously, with this, are most excited about using it for commuter intelligence. This is actually a screenshot of an event that happened in Australia now, sir. But
Just please tell us when you move.
and so basically it's a screen grab showing their EOC and what they saw when this flood was happening. It shows each different individual, I can use the mouse, right? Yeah. Shows each individual different street, the actual depths that the sensors are showing it happening, how many bridges are closed, what's major, what's minor flooding. And so it gives just a great detail of flooding and intelligence. And although we are obviously focused on the commuter aspect, I think the application is much wider, and as we build this network out, I think we'll find a lot of hidden benefits. And so that's basically RAIN in its entirety, and I did spend a lot of time on this logo, so I hope you guys like it. Any questions?
Very nice logo.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And remember I said at the very beginning that this is Broward County, although you're going to see a lot of different areas. Oh, I was right. The looks excellent. My law office is on Broward Boulevard on the 17th floor, and I face north. I was on the south side of Broward, so I saw all during the 2023 flooding. I saw all of those cars getting stuck on Broward, and hopefully this will help reduce all of that in the future. My prediction is people will ignore the warnings and think that they can go anyhow, but I hope I'm wrong. Do we need to redefine what a 1 in 100 year event is? Because it seems like we are having multiple 1 in 100 year event. I know that a 1 in 100 year event doesn't mean it will happen once every 100 years. It means there's a 1% chance of it occurring in any given year. But if we see 3 or 4 of them in 10 years, then it's probably not really a 1% chance. And I'm thinking that we need to be able to update our prediction maps as to what is a 1 in 100 year event.
Yeah, thank you. I know that this question is increasingly asked, and while we do talk about the rainfall intensification that occurs with a 1 in 100 year event, the frequency of what we define, as I say, the 1 in 500 is actually now more like the 1 in 100, and the 1 in 100 may be more like a 1 in 50. So there are efforts by NOAA to
The insurance
reevaluate.
industry should hear about that.
Right. So I think that there is that we will see a shift in those definitions, or at least what constitutes or the rainfall volumes with any of those. And I think that we'll see that progression happen just naturally because the rainfall volumes will be greater for the higher frequency events.
And you hear us talk about rain intensification. My understanding from talking to you, actually, is we're actually not getting more rain here in South Florida. We're getting about the same amount per year that we used to, but we are having increasing periods of drought and increasing periods of intense rain, so that we're getting roughly the same amount of rain, but it's coming in much more intense periods. Is that accurate? Or am I wrong on that?
Well, it's a combination. So overall, with climate change, we do not anticipate an overall, like, significant increase in annual average rainfall. So that is true. What we do expect that it will occur in these concentrated periods of time, and the average annual will remain somewhat the same. Although we also know that with an event like we saw in Fort Lauderdale in '23, the rainfall volume over Fort Lauderdale was 100 inches, or the rainfall amount, although our average annual is more like 58 inches across Broward County. So you may have areas where the total rainfall amount was higher, but on average, and that's what we look at across Broward County.
On average,
That's
over
right.
the course of a year.
That's
So
right.
I think it's important, because we're the water experts, that people are going to ask these kind of questions. It's important to understand that when we say more rainfall, our average annual is not substantially increasing, maybe a little, we don't know yet, but my guess is it's increasing small amount. But in general, it's coming in much more intense periods. So, Dr. Hirado, and then I'll call on our members.
I just wanted to share as well that increasingly the scientific evidence and papers are acknowledging that while rainfall intensification is happening overall, and we know that to be the case across the United States, it is most severe in urban areas. And so our phenomenon, as a whole, it has to be something that we're aware of, but the severity is greater over urban areas. And I think we don't even yet know what that looks like. We have a sense, but it continues to evolve. And the other thing that Stefan shared that I think is important for us to appreciate, so one, we've recognized for 5-7 years that there's this, we've had this desire to build out this sensor system, and it can help inform a number of priorities and we call non-structural solutions, the early warning systems, which I think will be important, and we'll be able to use this information just like you use Waze or something else to route traffic based upon, congestion. We need features like this to help route traffic based on roadway accessibility. And so it can serve us, our traffic management systems in some way, but we also have our countywide resilience plan. And so the more we have information that helps to prioritize, reinforce, and validate what we already know from the modeling, will help bring additional resources to those efforts. And so whether we're looking at the resilience plan, the network, talking about Resilient Florida, all of this information should be used to help build the case for why we need to bring more money to Broward County projects, and the more tools we have to support that will hopefully be of mutual benefit.
And as we've seen in Texas and California, wildfires because of no rain, and then massive flooding, which leads to, unfortunately, the camp deaths and mudslides because the ground can't absorb the water after the drought. Commissioner Biederman, followed by Commissioner Eaton. Commissioner Biederman, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. So just, can you clarify the timeline and amount of sensors that we're expecting to put out?
Yes, sir.
And where they're gonna be? Is it just gonna be on county roads? Is there an opportunity for cities to participate, to put their own sensors, to join the network so that there's a wider spread of data collection and alert systems?
And Commissioner Biederman, without the sensors, I can predict that South Lake is going to flood. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. So right now, we actually are moving forward with negotiating ILAs with the city of Hallandale, Hollywood, and Fort Lauderdale to move onto their city roads. The ILA would basically be that we provide all of the sensors up front, we provide the pole, and then all of the actual maintenance and software backend, while the city basically does the install, the permitting for us, and then gives us right-of-way access. When we're talking about numbers for this year alone, so like Fort Lauderdale is requesting 12 sensors to be put onto their roadways next year. I think Hollywood's looking at 10, and then Hallandale is much smaller, but they still,
3.5 square miles.
yeah.
Represented it for
Well, they
20
want
years.
them all. But I'm thinking 6 to 8, hopefully, for Hallandale. And then every year on that, I'm hoping to expand to different cities and put another 30 to 40 sensors on roads. I think, with the size of our county and the AI abilities, that 200, in 4 to 5 years would give us enough density to really allow us to not have any holes. And those would be on city roads as well. County roads, we're putting 12 on this year.
So this is a very exciting program.
Yes.
Like, it's one of the most exciting things that I've heard here in 12 years of being on this board, kind of. I mean, for me at least.
Commissioner Biederman, I'm sorry, I should know this, but what area of Hollywood do you represent?
90% of everything west of the Turnpike to the Pembroke Pines, Cooper City, Davie line.
Okay.
Yeah, so Chris Rodcheck, is that?
Yes.
Yes. So he's the lead for Hollywood right now. He's got the ILA, I think it's with legal. But yeah, we're hoping to put 10.
He's our Dr. Gerardo.
Yes, yes.
There's only one Dr. Gerardo.
It's the best we can come up with. I mean, that's a large platform to live up to. My only concern in my tenure in government is everything moves so slow. The timeline although time flies pretty quick, I would have liked to see it more accelerated quicker to get from point A to point B.
Fair.
I'm sure everybody
Yeah.
does, right?
But, I mean, procurements, ILAs, it takes time. And then also, budget realities. We don't have the money to front 200 sensors this year alone. So we're going to spend about $300,000 to $400,000 on sensors this year. Next year, another $300,000 to $400,000. And so,
Can't we use some of the unclaimed grant opportunity money? It seems like it's kind of similar, no?
I'm not picky on where the money comes from.
Right?
Just put it in my account.
I mean, that's what I would think, that some of that unclaimed grant money would go towards this. It's kind of a similar
Dr.
situation.
Gerardo, you need to listen to this. Please continue.
Some of
Could
I
you
mean,
repeat what you said? Because I want
some
Dr.
of the
Gerardo to
unclaimed
hear this.
grant money,
Can you
we
hear
heard
me,
it was
Michael?
there's like $1 million left in construction money or whatever it was, right?
Greg?
Yeah, the capital funding that we have is precisely for the feasibility analysis and design of specific projects. They could potentially be
Sounds like a great
reappropriated,
project.
but the reality is that it's going to be very hard to physically get the infrastructure in the ground, even with the money. I mean, it's like, again, you can throw up $5 million at it, but you can only get it in so quickly. So I think that the reality is that we will be pressed to put everything in place as quickly as already is proposed, given the mechanics of what need to happen. If there were a shortfall, I'm sure that there could be a conversation, but it's not as if there isn't enough money in, the surtax to support the installation either. There's far more resources there. So I think it's budgeted at the level that it can be executed at this time.
and if the
they will
cities
be-
are-
Excuse me, one last thing. there is also a request for funding to up the staffing. So we will be building staffing in order to ensure the installations.
Okay.
Commissioner Bierman, this looks to me, we're about to start the fourth quarter of '25. If they're looking at installation in '26 and completing it in '27, that seems to be about as quickly as,
We forget where we're at sometimes.
yes.
But no, it's very exciting to know that Hollywood, Hallandale, Fort Lauderdale are already involved. And I'm excited that we're already looking at integrating with Google Maps and Waze and being able to alert the public. But I think that's one of the things that people complained about in the April 12th event was we weren't reactive enough to close off roads. And, you know, it was waking into people's houses and stuff like that. So I think that this is a great system and it's going to help to save insurance monies, essentially, if people listen to the warnings.
That's
Thank you.
which is always the problem, getting people to listen to the warnings.
And I'll push if there needs to be push in Hollywood at least to push it along and get it done a little quicker.
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
Okay. And Commissioner Biederman, let me toss in one additional caveat, which is this is assuming, and all of you know about what the state is talking about doing in terms of property taxes. This is assuming that we have any money left to spend. I mean, obviously you cannot eliminate property taxes, but if the legislature, my information is that they will probably do something that would result in a 15 or 20% overall reduction in property taxes to local governments. If such a thing happens, I don't know that we're going to have money to spend on anything. Well,
Back the
I
blue,
know
but
that the
nothing
League of Cities and
says
Association
defund
of
the
Counties
police
are fighting.
than reducing property taxes.
I always refer to it, I'm on the Executive and Legislative Committee of Florida Association of Counties. Every time discussion occurs about eliminating property taxes, I always interrupt and say, oh, you mean the defund the police bill, correct? Right. Yes. By the way, just FYI, Broward County and our general revenue, about 55% of that goes directly to BSO, and 85% of our GR comes from property taxes. So if somebody can explain to me how we eliminate property taxes without defunding the police, I'm very interested in listening. It means they went to a different school than I did, different quantum math, because addition and subtraction won't work. Commissioner Eden, you're recognized,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Senator. So cutting corners, limited amount of funding. And just want to preface the question by saying that, at least in Pompano, and I know many other cities are all utilizing closed-circuit TV cameras everywhere, which I think is a very valuable tool. And I have learned that not all cameras talk to each other. And I wonder whether, and you know, you have your backup camera because, you know, you can see something and be able to see there's flooding as a fail-safe backup. So I'm wondering if you've considered how we could possibly integrate with the CCTVs that are in the area or with law enforcement, so that it's as a cost-saving mechanism, and by able to utilize what they've already invested in the infrastructure on the cameras. And I get that it's not the sensor data, but it is a visual data that, you know, with what AI could do an analysis for searching for a flood level, like they search for a color of a jacket or a license plate, and which is incredible technology that's coming. So I would just put that out there,
Yeah.
because I think that'd be very cost effective if it could be done that way.
So yep.
And just broaden your scope, your field of vision.
Yeah, so we are looking at that. There are a lot of laws when it comes to tapping into those cameras specifically, that we're not sure if it's going to be plausible. Currently, we've hit a lot of dead ends when it comes to accessing that data because it is highly private, and there's a lot of, you're not allowed to store CCTV, traffic camera data. That's only live feed allowed. And so we are looking at that avenue, but it's hit a lot of roadblocks.
Well,
lately.
laws, they change all the time. Somebody wrote the book. Who wrote the book? So we got to change it.
Yeah,
I
unfortunately.
think possibly for this, for this scenario, public safety, primarily, which,
I don't believe those are county ordinances. I believe those would be state and federal
yes,
laws, right?
absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did that, thank you, Commissioner Eaton. I'm going to call next on Isabel Coso Carballo, but first, Dr. Mount, did we have somebody online who wanted to comment also?
No, we were trying to get Carolina in earlier, but we
Gotcha.
lost her, so we're still good.
Okay. Ms. Coso Carballo, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator, and an excellent presentation. I'm building on the comments from Commissioner Eaton. I actually think that, I wanted to know what is the purpose of the cameras? Who gets the data? What is it used for? Because
Which set
frankly,
of cameras are you talking
the
about?
cameras on
The one that he's
on these-
talking about?
Right. How is that data going to be used and who does it go to?
So that's going to be private data. That's going to be only for county staff.
Okay.
It's not going to be saved. If you have a weird sensor reading and you're not sure if maybe the top of the catch basin's clogged, you're like, it's been raining all day, but I haven't gotten anything. The cameras aren't video either. They'll just
good.
take one still image and it'll be like deleted afterwards. So they'll be able to figure out what's actually happening. Maybe there is a problem, it's clogged, and they need to send out a vac truck. So it's just a redundancy for the actual sensors.
No, that's great. How is the data, well, I guess we're further along. How far along is the system so far? Is it going to be based on the Texas model? Or what are we doing there?
Yeah, so we actually have sensors up and running right now on county roads. So we're just testing out the data and the actual technology. The Texas model, the actual resident-facing dashboard, there were funding limitations this year, so we've had to push that back. We're hoping that by FY 2027, we can get it built and pushed out to the public.
One last question, Senator.
You're right,
Thank
of
you.
course.
So I would say that as a resident, a longtime resident of Broward County, I would be grateful for information that would tell me where not to drive and get stuck in water.
Right.
It's happened to me. I live in Hollywood. We've been flooding a lot for a long time. I know the commission's working very hard to remedy that. I
You
would
live in the
say
lakes,
also.
don't you?
Pardon me?
You live in the lakes, don't you?
It feels like it sometimes, yes. I live on 26. It took me 3 days to get out of there in my car. But my point is this. I do, as a longtime resident of Broward County, I feel like there are cameras everywhere. If this was going to be used for anything other than informing residents of where not to drive, if a proposal came to adapt it to an additional surveillance camera, I would be in front of the county commission opposing it. Because I do think that our privacy is precious, and I think it's, we don't have a lot of privacy left.
And
Isabel, they're not talking about that. The question is, Commissioner Eaton was saying that perhaps they could use the traffic cams to tie into that, and that would be. Yeah, but that, right, that's where the state and federal laws, which were designed to limit the use of the traffic cameras because of privacy concerns, that's where the issue is.
yeah, and again, with the cameras, if there does happen to be an issue, if someone's privacy is a thing, we have the ability to just unplug them and take them out and still go with all the other sensors so it gives us flexibility if in the future things change, because like you said, laws are written, laws change.
Commissioner Eaton, I saw your hand. Did
Yeah,
you want to
yeah,
comment?
it is, I mean, you'd have to argue it and you'd have to lobby for it, but just common sense wise, you don't really have an expectation of privacy when you're out on a public street. And to say that we do have an infrastructure of cameras already out there that could help with safety concerns, with being able to put alerts out that could potentially save lives. I mean, I don't think that's a hard thing.
Remember, most of those cameras, if you're talking about like the traffic cameras, those are all owned by private companies. But there'd also have to be an agreement with them.
Well, a lot of cities also have, I know Pompano has cameras, they're not exactly traffic cameras, but they do monitor the roadway. We have, upwards of over 1,000 cameras within the city,
Well,
if not more.
The water people have heard your comment, staff, so I'm sure
Thank
they'll
you.
check into this.
Thank
Are there
you.
any
Yes, very
additional
good.
questions or comments on this particular program before we move on? If not, is Dr. Moran available?
No, not yet, sir.
Okey dokey.
Go ahead.
Is Stuart Rimland here? Stuart, how are you? There you are. Stuart is the legislative counsel of Broward County Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, which is headed by Marty Cassini. So, Mr. Rimland, thank you for being here today, sir. You're recognized.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, I'm legislative counsel for the Office of Intergov. Thank you for that introduction. And I'm going to give a pretty brief update today, just touch briefly on a federal update regarding PFAS, and then we're going to turn and just take just a brief update on where the state is as far as the property tax discussion. So,
Sorry.
So turning first to PFAS, also known as forever chemicals. So to give an update overview of kind of what's happened over the past few months, well, I guess starting in April 2024, that was when the Biden administration came out. They set limits on PFAS and other chemicals in the drinking water, and they had a deadline of 2029. So back in May, the Trump administration, they announced at that time that it would keep those current standards that had come out as part of the Biden administration's initiative. And so that was related to specifically two chemicals, PFOA, PFOA, and PFOS, PFOS. The Trump administration in May also said, though, they would move the compliance deadline to 2031. They also said they were rescinding and reconsidering limits for other chemicals known as Gen X chemicals. There's a bunch of abbreviations. It's PFHXS, PFNA, HFPODA, and PFBs. Yes. However, over the last few days, in recent ongoing PFAS litigation, a DOJ attorney argued that cleanup cost recovery claims could be futile if the EPA withdraws the rule designating PFOA and PFOS as hazardous substances under CERCLA. That could be a signal that the Trump administration is considering rolling back the designation related to PFOA and PFOS. Currently, this is just a monitor, right? So this is just an argument made by a DOJ attorney in a court case a couple of days ago. There isn't any further signal, but this is more of a heads up that this is something to monitor and to watch. It's more of a reading the tea leaves situation, being aware, because as we know, things can change quickly at the federal level. And so
I thought that this is a surprise to me. I thought the federal government, instead of just extending the deadline that they already had repealed, and clearly I was wrong, the PFAS and what was it, PFOA?
So
was the other one?
So
'Cause
yes, what
they don't seem to. If they don't believe in climate change, then I question how much they're going to be believing in these chemicals, even though they seem to be well documented to me. What do I know?
Yeah, so to go back to kind of address kind of what you're referring to. So regarding PFOA and what's the other? PFOA and PFOS. So they had stated in May 2014, the EPA, Lee Zeldin came out, and he had said at that time that for those two chemicals, they were just going to delay compliance, but the standards at that point was a maximum level of 4 parts per trillion. They would be maintaining those. So they did come out and announce that then, and now, and that is currently, the most recent information. And now from a tea leaf situation, though, there could be a possible change based on the argument made by a DOJ attorney. So that is kind of our current lay of the land. Like I said, it's just a monitor situation at this point. Just happened a few days ago. It's something we're looking at.
Okay, and before you move on, Dr.
Yep.
Gerardo, my recollection, I had asked at either this board or the county commission how much the increase in water bills was going to be to bring Broward into compliance. My recollection, and I could easily be wrong, but was that this was going to be because of increased energy costs and increased filter costs because of the cost of mostly reverse osmosis. We're looking at approximately a 50% increase. Do you recall what that number actually is?
I actually do not. I know that we're intending to follow up on that ourselves within our department, but I don't know what that number is.
Since we have so many TAC members here today, does anybody know what that cost is? Has this been calculated in any of your cities? I thought that I was told it was about 50%, but that's just a vague recollection. No, I see no volunteers. So, I saw one possible volunteer. No? Okay. No volunteers. So please, if y'all can let us know at our next meeting, to the best of your ability, what that number is. Okay, and please continue, Mr. Imland.
Okay, no problem. So that was kind of the federal update at this point. Turning to a state update, the upcoming legislative session will begin January 13th. There's going to be interim committee week starting in October. The county right now is working on putting together a state appropriation request for septic to sewer. And so that would essentially be taking our ongoing septic to sewer efforts and seeking essentially a match at the state level, which would help us accelerate those efforts. And so a heads up on that. Talking about property taxes, which Senator Geller has already referred to. So there's a select committee on property taxes in the House, and their next meetings will be on September 22nd and September 23rd. At this point, there's still no clarity on what proposals are going to come out of either the House or the Senate. These proposals would be basically become a ballot initiative. It would be put on the 2026 ballot, in which the voters of the state would vote, whether they agree with the proposal. It's unclear if that proposal is going to remove or reduce, or what impact that would have on property taxes. What I would say is, obviously impacts to the county budget are going to impact everything the county does. And this is something that will ultimately go to the voters. So, as far as projects that the county is working on, like the RAIN project, right? Those are the things that provides a vital service to the people of the county. And the more that we can connect what people's property taxes are paying for and what services could be put at risk, I think just the more we can do that as the county, the better.
Okay, let me interrupt and briefly chat about this. As I think all of you know, the legislature has passed laws a number of years ago prohibiting local governments from spending any money campaigning on issues that are on the ballot. The issue is not yet on the ballot. I know my office is preparing documents that we will be sending out. I have about an 18,000 person email list with a better than 50% open rate. So I actually do get people following my emails. And I'm just going to be pointing out where property taxes go. I will tell you that we collectively as elected officials do a horrible job in explaining to the voters where the property taxes go. And maybe we explain and they're just not listening. But I have been doing this since Well, in 2006 to 2008, when I was the Senate Minority Leader, Marco Rubio was Speaker, and he was the last person to try and eliminate property taxes, although he was going to replace it with a 4-cent increase in the sales tax, which would have only covered around 70% or so of what we would have lost. I've been asking since 2006, and I've asked easily 15 or 20,000 people since then where their local property tax money goes to. And I've asked in the following fashion. I divide local government spending into 5 categories. They are roads and bridges, parks and recreation, public safety, administration and overhead, which deals with, at the city level, city commission, city administration, city manager, city hall, travel, department heads, but nothing else lower than that. And then 5th category is everything else. The average that people think that we spend on administration and overhead is between 1/3 and 40%. The average that they think we spend on public safety is between 1/4 and 1/3. And in fact, the average that local government, cities and counties spend on administration and overhead is between 8 and 10%. The average that we spend on public safety is between 50 and 70%. There's some that spend 48 or 49, some that spend, into the 70s, but the average is actually between 55 and 65, with most being on a bell curve between 50 and 70. We don't let people know enough where the money goes, and we really need to. So, Commissioner Caggiano?
For those with cities that have quarterly magazines, I've asked my staff to start putting just charts in to show that. I was asked to put it off to the next, so I said, no, we need to start right away.
Absolutely.
We need to have people know where the tax dollars go, because if they change it to a sales tax, it's one of the most regressive taxes on the poorest people in our communities who can afford it the least. And we can't have people voting again against their own self-interest, so we have to give them the information now while we can, because we're not allowed to
Once anything's on the ballot, we
Yeah.
cannot campaign on it.
Exactly. So we've got to do it now. So if you have the quarterly magazines, ask them to save a half a page, save a page. Just put some charts in there of where that money goes. So when people say that they don't know, you say, don't you read the magazine we send you every quarter?
No, they don't.
I know. I know, but you know what? I
But-
love saying that to them.
But we all speak. I have town meetings twice a year in every city I represent. I've had twice already this week. I've attended and spoken at different evening organizations. So it is important that we get out the information as to where the money comes from and where it goes, because again, Governor DeSantis, and by the way, I can just tell you for Broward County, they're using incorrect numbers, because our budget is somewhere between $2 billion and $9 billion, depending on how you count. It's $9 billion when you include airport, seaport, and water, our 3 enterprise funds, which are roughly $2 billion, but that money comes in and can only be spent on those areas. We've got over $1 billion in pass-throughs for all of you cities. You don't pay the sheriff if you have a sheriff's office. Broward County fronts the money and you repay Broward County. We make 0 on that, but that still counts in our $9 billion in income. We give money to the private hospitals so they can draw down Medicaid reimbursement. They reimburse us the amount of money. We get 0 from that, but that counts as revenue. If we have $250 million in reserves and we increase that by $20 million, it shows in our books not as $20 million, it shows as $270 million, because the reserves, even if we don't add to them, count as income each year, according to accounting standards for some bizarre reason. So our general revenue is only about, well, if you take out reserves, it's only around 1.8 billion. Sheriff gets 950 million of that. And but when the governor says, well, they're only getting 27% of their revenue from property taxes, so they'll just have to tighten their belt, he's talking about the 9 billion, which includes also all of our federal trust funds, state trust funds, where they'll give us money, but they can only go towards certain specific items. That's not from our general revenue. Our general revenue, it's 85% of. So you cannot eliminate 85% of our general revenue and not defund the police, but people don't understand that. By the way, my understanding, because again, having been in the legislature for 20 years, is the House and Senate have both said that they will not eliminate property taxes, nor is the governor has now changed it to saying he wants to eliminate residential property taxes, which is somewhere around 2/3 of our budget. However, what the House and Senate will probably do, if some combination, we don't know what this is they will look at increasing homestead exemption for seniors. They will increase some combination of this. They will increase, everybody will get a homestead exemption of like 200,000. Currently it's 50, because what they want to do is do something to help first-time home buyers. So if you give everybody an initial exemption of 200 or something like that, or just increase it. So also that if you inherit a house, right now, if your parents leave you a home, it gets adjusted, they would eliminate that. So we're looking realistically at, based on what I've been told, somewhere between 15, 20, 25% reduction in our overall property tax revenue, which would be devastating to local governments. I see that are there any last questions? If not, I see that Dr. Moran has now joined us. Dr. Moran, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Thank you for being here today for the Section 203 update. I will tell you that Dr. Hirado gave a very, very, very brief update on what occurred. None of the details, just that the meeting occurred and that it was a great meeting. And I said that I would wait until you were here to extend my thanks to the South Florida Water Management District, Army Corps as well. But I will be honest, as I said at that meeting, I never thought that the schedule that was set forth to create that map, our plan, was so time compressed. I never thought that you could get it done in time. I thought that you'd come back to us and say, hey, we did our best. And I'm amazed and would like to extend my thanks at the great work that the South Florida Water Management District in general and you in particular have done in getting things done as quickly as you have. You're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Senator Geller, my pleasure. We have a very strong team in the agency, and with the help from the consultants, for sure, they have been working intensively in the plan, and we also have great partners. Thank you very much, Broward County, for helping us get here. And we also receive funds and support from DEP as well. So, yes, I am.
And for those of you that are
here.
new to the Water Advisory Board, Dr. Moran is an alumnus of Broward County.
Yes, my pleasure again. It's great to be working with the county, and especially because I was involved in some of the early models that is supporting today the study. So again, really great to be able to share this. The meeting earlier this week was excellent. We got really great feedback so far on what we have been building, and it's great to be reaching this milestone that we are right now, and I'm happy to share with you some of those updates that we presented on Tuesday.
And
the
everybody
time
does
is
have the plan in front of them. It is a document entitled Draft Tentatively Selected Plan.
Yes, I believe you printed copies of this placemat, correct?
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Perfect. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Okay. So let me walk you through this. This was a presentation that was 2 hours long. I did summarize it in a few last slides. I'm going to rush through these slides quickly, but I'm more than happy to answer questions towards the end. And just, again, trying to summarize what was a long presentation into a few key points here and available for questions as we step into this. So this study had the goal to develop and evaluate flood risk management measures to really build resiliency in this system and in the communities served by this system. So we focus on the system, the water control structures, the canals and structures that we have in Broward County serving the region and really increasing functionality and capacity with the goal of reducing flood risks. We are the non-federal sponsor for this study, and we have a special authorization. South Florida Water Management District has a special authorization to WARDA 1986 Section 203. That's the reason a lot of you can hear about this study using this reference, Section 203 study. So this gives us the authorization to develop this study and have a partnership with the Corps to their required federal activities. So we do have an agreement with the Corps for them to perform the federal activities, but the study itself is developed by the South Florida Water Management District. Here's the study area. So we have managed basins, what we call here managed basins. Those are the basins that we have control. The system that those basins have the control. So we manage water levels in this brownish area on the map. This is the area that's being served by the project. And we also have the tidally influenced areas downstream. So a total of 9 upstream watershed basins, 7 canals, and 9 water control structures. We're going to see more details on this in the next slides. So in order to develop a plan, we have to follow, even though we are doing the plan, we as a water management agency and the project team, we have to follow the approach, basically the study approach under the Army Corps guidelines. So we started this under this 216 study. That was the first authorization that we received to study the CNSF system in a larger area. So we started this effort through this umbrella of the 216. And then we are using additional data that we have and information that we have been developing through those years. So we have flood protection, what we call a flood protection level service program. We have our sea level rise plan. We have Broward County's resiliency planning efforts. And we use all this information plus feedback received through this process early on since 2016 and also this 203 process. We are compiling all this information to really inform this study. So what we did, the first step was to combine these initial findings and recommendations in what we call initial array of alternatives. So there was a set of different options to improve to determine how we're going to improve this system. And then we look closely at each of those options. So without providing too many details, the options that we look at as part of this initial array of alternatives are listed here. So we look at structural management measures. As I mentioned, the real big focus is looking at those canals. So seeing how can we enhance the canal from expanding canal cross-section or raising canal banks, adding gates, increasing gates, moving those gates, adding pump stations, upgrading existing pump stations, looking at if we need any flood barrier in the system, hardening existing structures, removing and relocating, just trying to test what would happen in the system if we are removing or relocating those structures, creating interbasin transfers, just increasing the ability to move water around, and also looking at injection sites. From a nature-based management perspective, we look at enhancing floodplain restoration, where we have space in existing floodplains, freshwater wetlands, and rain gardens. We look at additional storage options as well with associated nature-based management. And then from a non-structural management perspective, we look at house raising, floodproofing, and floodplain management. So basically look at all those alternatives, what would make sense within the scope and the goals of this study. So this was presented in a public meeting, public engagement and kickoff meeting in December 2024, early in the study phase through this scoping meeting. So then, beginning with this bucket of measurements and what we could do, all these strategies in these basins, how can we then really determine the best solution and what would meet the project objectives? So we started a series of detailed assessments. They are listed in this slide. So historical and cultural resources assessment, so looking at those sites, potential sites where those solutions would be implemented, to look at what is historical and cultural resources existing there, environmental assessments. We did geotechnical investigations, topographic surveys, looking at every kind of data that can help us determine the feasibility of the project. We perform additional hydrologic and hydraulic studies. Really, we did extensive model to support how we can assess the benefits of each of those alternatives. We also look at benefits in general. So from a traffic impact perspective, what those alternatives would make, economic, social, environmental benefits in general. We also did a business interruption analysis. And on each of the sites, we also did real estate evaluation. So really understanding what would be the needs from a real estate perspective and how can we also investigate feasibility of that. So all of that was used to narrow down this initial set of alternatives into a final array, right? This final array was then what we used to determine this tentatively selected plan that we're going to be presenting next. But let's just step into final array first. Here we have a map. So from this initial set, we built three alternatives, three final array alternatives, A, B, and C. In this map, we have some legends here and some little dots on the map, but basically what we are seeing here is on alternative A, you see a set of infrastructure being proposed here in mostly, again, canals and coastal structure. And this increases. So when we move to alternative B, you see a little bit more of those dots, meaning more infrastructure. In alternative C, the most robust in terms of infrastructure. So that's how we formulated those three alternatives. So coming from A with minimum, I would say, minimum infrastructure needed to address the most urgent risks, increasing to build a little bit more in terms of flood response into B, and then larger infrastructure into alternative C. For the non-structural elements, we have C1 alternatives, we're calling a test case within C1. So basically with the largest possible infrastructure, not possible, but within the scenario of a larger possible infrastructure, what is the residual risk? What are still properties that have risks in terms of a flood perspective? So then we would look at non-structural, meaning how we can address those by perhaps elevating or flood-proofing this residual risk. So that's embedded also in alternative C. This is a very small letter table. I don't need to read all of that, but that's kind of representing this infrastructure that we have on this map into this table. So looking at basin by basin, what we have for alternative A in terms of gates, pumps, canals, storage, nature-based features. So really detailing here. And as you can see, the more we move from A to C, the more infrastructure is being proposed. Then, based on this final array, we run again our H&H model. We have a total of 8 scenarios that we run. We want to test, of course, the flood risks from a very small recurrent event to larger, less recurrent, more rare events. So that's what we have here. So from a two-year surge representing high tide conditions and a 5-year rainfall until a 100-year surge with a 100-year rainfall, or even a 2-year surge with a 500-year rainfall. So really testing the model to understand how this system will be addressing those conditions. For the additional, just one note here, for the additional benefits, we cannot test always. It's a lot of benefits that we have, so we focus on 3 representative scenarios to understand what the benefits would be provided. I'm going to walk next, but we focus on the 25-year, 2-year surge, 100-year rain, 2-year surge, and then 100. Okay. This is just an example of what the model output is. We have several ways of looking at model output, but this is one important way.
Dr.
Basically
Moran,
looking at the
sorry,
can-
Dr. Moran, I just want to acknowledge that we've got 15 minutes left, and I know that Senator Geller wants to be able to provide time for Q&A. So if you would like to just maybe summarize the key points of what's represented in the final, the proposed tentatively selected plan, so that then the WAB members can respond to that. I think that would be the best use of the remaining time.
Okay,
Thank you.
So this, again, just looking at how we can reduce flood levels in the canal stages. This slide shows how we reduce overall flooded areas within the basins. This slide shows all the benefits that I was mentioning to you all. So really, I'm not going to go, but a list of ways of capturing all the benefits from each of those alternatives and which alternative performs best. You can review this slide later. And then also considerations to the TSP in terms of comprehensive benefits, cost efficiency. I think a very important point before I move into this is really how we can look at that and really start assessing the benefit cost. The alternative with the most infrastructure does not provide us a cost-effective solution. We are really with a benefit cost ratio less than 1 in that case. So here is a graphic way of looking from that initial table how we combine alternatives A, B, and C. So the best performing measures from these multiple alternatives are combined into what we call a draft tentative selected plan. And this is the slide that we have here. It's in a map format. I'm going to zoom into each of the basins. Good. So Hillsborough Canal, we have here, we're proposing a new gated spillway with 4 gates and enhancements of the canal itself. So 5.5 around. We have a 3 basin
You're breaking up,
here.
Dr. Moran.
They operate almost in a new gated spillway at the G. I apologize.
No, we can hear
you
you
me
again.
now?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you again.
Good. An enhanced structure on G57 in Pompano, canal enhancements west of S37B at C14 West, enhanced structure at S37B, and then a new pump at S37A and a new gate, so larger gates at S37A. S36, this is C13 West, here in North Fork Middle River. We have 2 new gated spillways, 16 feet, and we also have 510 CFS pump stations. So new gates, new pump at S36. S33, similar scenario, new gates, new pump here in the North New River. And then S13, the southmost. G54, we have a new gated spillway with 4 gates as well, and a new pump station. And then at S13, we already have a pump station there, so it's larger pump station and new gated spillway, 2 gate spillway here, and we also have around 8.4 miles of canal improvement along C1 East, C11 East, and C11 West. We are doing refinements on the CSP. What we are doing is really looking at the operation, so beginning to test the operation and how we look at overall benefits in the basin. So that's what we are going to begin to do based on the set of proposed alternatives and also, of course, while we wait for comments received. This is where we are in terms of the schedule. We are receiving public input here for this draft tentatively selected plan. We are going to have another opportunity coming up in December. We're going to launch our NEPA public meetings in December. And here's the period to submit comments. Resiliency at South Florida, comments due no later than September 19th. Please. Thank you.
Dr. Moran, thank you for everything you've done, B, speeding up this presentation, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions, and C, I wanted to extend my thanks to you again, and hope that the Army Corps, it's my understanding that they've tentatively accepted that originally the proposal was for only 3 pumps, which I believe would have been insufficient, and the current plan is for 5, if I'm correct. Additionally, we were looking at expenditure of somewhere at a minimum of $1 billion, maximum of 2 to 3, and the modified Plan B, which I think is what I would refer to it as, is coming in at around $1.5 billion, right near the midpoint of what we were expecting. Is that correct?
That's all correct.
Okay.
Yes, a modified B is a good way to describe it.
And the last thing that I will say to all of the board members before I throw it open for questions is please don't get too excited yet, because all that this means is that we will have the recommendation of the Army Corps, presumably once everything gets approved, when this goes to Congress. I am very concerned that in their zeal to be reducing spending on everything, that the WRDA bill, Water Resource Development Act, that the WRDA bill will in fact be funded at a lower level than we are hoping for, and there will be, even at its current levels or expected levels, there will be very, very fierce competition to get funded. So we've done everything we can with the help primarily of South Florida Water Management District, but also the Corps. But just remember, everybody will need to contact their congressional delegation, and not just your Congress people. I think it's even more critical to contact your United States senators, because our Congress people have been very supportive. I haven't heard as much vocal support from our U.S. senators, so it's important to contact your Congress people and your United States senators to try and make sure that they aggressively push for this funding. Dr. Moran, did you have any comments on my comments, or can I throw it open?
Yeah, please open the mic. Yes, thank you. Senator Geller.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. At this point in time, are there any questions or comments? I told her to speed up because I thought you all were going to have a lot of questions and comments. Ms. Cosio-Carballo, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Senator. Speaking of sort of regional collaboration, which of course is the perspective that we come from, so we have this proposal that would be a request for WRDA funding for $1.5 billion. And I'm wondering if Dr. Moran can speak to whether there are other proposals coming from Miami-Dade, Palm Beach.
This is the only one. This is funding Broward only, because what happened is they are doing a larger study. Broward felt we couldn't wait. We came up with $5 million, which was matched by South Florida Water Management District. We invited, urged Dade and Palm Beach to join us in funding to get ahead. Neither Dade nor Palm Beach chose to provide the funding, which was matched by the South Florida Water Management District. So the only study that is being done is on Broward. Is that correct, Dr. Moran?
Yes, the remaining ones are later in time, 2028 and 2030. So 2026 target is only for Broward.
Thank you, Senator. What I was thinking, we could speak at it at our board meeting, if there's some congressional ask that we might be able to pull in support from Miami-Dade and Palm Beach as well. But
It's, this funding is only for Broward, and it would be impossible at this late stage to ask for Dade and Palm Beach. They are still online, but they're looking at 6 or 8 years later than us.
yeah,
Yes, Dr. Verado.
2032 or something like that.
Well, and I also think it's fair to note that Miami-Dade benefited from 2 separate FEMA brick projects that were accelerating projects in their area at a lesser level because those were partial fixes, but they were still for $50 million apiece. Now, some of the brick funding was then later pulled back, but nonetheless, the district has continued to work to prioritize those projects in DEM funding requests. So Miami-Dade chose to put their emphasis on that funding strategy rather than emphasizing a more comprehensive approach initially. They've, in my understanding, not put any sizable resources towards that. And so what we might instead argue and acknowledge is that the work in detail that was presented here will in fact serve all entities because it's informative and will help their phase. And so when that work comes along, we're all better positioned. But in the meantime, this is still
It's
the
not
funding
regional.
request.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We can strategize later on how to bring extra support in. Okay, thank you.
Great. Additional questions, comments? Additional, Mr. Caggiano, I saw you were looking and then changed your mind. Okay. Okay. Again, this is, a very, very complicated issue. I cannot thank the SFWMD enough. I will only remind everybody this is only the first step. Getting funded as part of the WARDA bill will require journeys to Washington, will require emails, letters, phone calls. This is a critical issue. They can set the table for us, but we have to get Congress to deliver the meals. Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you, Dr. Moran. We appreciate your being here. And again, we appreciate everything that you have done so far. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You, everyone. Have a great weekend.
We have about 3 minutes left. Dr. Harada.
Senator Geller, I do have a response on the question that came regarding the anticipated increase in water rates, at least
Thank you.
as it
Right.
pertains to Broward County WWS.
Right.
And the response from Director Alan Garcia was that the expectation is that it will increase the water portion of the bill by about 30%. We know the wastewater component is part of the bill, and
Right.
I think it's actually more than the water component, but the potable water component would increase about 30%. It wouldn't happen overnight. It would happen gradually with time, but nonetheless, that's the response.
And I think that we'll be finding that each city will be a little bit different depending on what you're doing now. And can I ask you to come up to the mic, please?
Well, and one follow-up, he said here that he expected that portion to increase from $30 to $40 per month, so it's about a $10 increase.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, this is Suzanne Meckler, and I'm part of the TAC, so I figured I'd
Great.
add some clarity
Please.
on the CERCLA versus the drinking water regulation. So as you're talking to your constituents, just recognize that they're 2 completely separate bills and regulations run through EPA, so both through EPA. They're both under litigation. So that is why you see a lot of this discussion and overlap on the tea leaves. But regarding CERCLA governs hazardous waste and disposal, right, releases, that is not governing your drinking water facilities. Your drinking water facilities only fall under that EPA regulation for the MCLs, which are the 4 that he mentioned. That regulation is currently active, meaning it was promulgated, it's in law. The notice that was given in March of this year is EPA saying they're going to do something to redo that. They have not done it yet. So that regulation, as it stands, is active. We do expect rulemaking to happen where they are going to extend the date and remove those constituents that he referenced. but it is currently active until we get an updated rulemaking. Then it will be done again. The tea leaves are true. There's a lot of discussion, but currently on the books is an active regulation. I just want to make sure that was clear to anybody that's talking to their drinking water facilities.
And my understanding is Broward County has decided that regardless of the federal regulations, the county wastewater or whatever it is, WWS? Okay, okay. Yeah, 2 W's, otherwise it's Worldwide Wrestling Fed. Okay, no. That we are still proceeding at the same schedule we had to eliminate by the old deadline for Broward County. Are there any additional questions or comments on either what Dr. Moran was saying, what Dr. Hirado just discussed, or any other item, because we are scheduled to adjourn in about a minute? Are there any other final questions or comments from anyone? Going, gone. Please show the meeting adjourned.